what is this video about?
All right, wow. Welcome back to Two Guys, One Ballot, where one ordinary and one extraordinary Colorado guy weigh in on one Colorado policy issue.
Today's episode is part of a special series called
Ballot to the Future,
where we talk about an issue that's going to be on your ballot this November.
or if you do the mail-in ballot scam with us, you can vote in October in advance. Okay,
This video is about a sales tax increase for homelessness. Not to cause homelessness, but to alleviate homelessness.
and it's gonna raise about $40 million of revenue for the city.
$40 million per year. All right, so the sales tax rate today is 8.3%. 8.3% is the total number, and part of that is Denver, which is 4 and change. Then there's the state tax, and then there's an RTD tax, which is a regional tax. And you might be in a special metro district that has an additional tax on top of that, but where I live in the downtown Denver area, it's 8.31% today in September 2020.
So you add that all up, 8.31%. How does that compare to other places like us around the state?
Around the state, we're lower than Boulder, we're lower than Commerce City, we're lower than Colorado Springs, we're higher than Centennial, we're higher than Greeley.
But we're about normal.
For Colorado, we're like in the zone of normal.
Right. Now, there are some, of course, high tax, predominantly liberal cities where sales tax is a lot higher. But Sasha, aren't there some liberal cities that have a lower sales tax rate than ours too?
Yeah, you can look at a place like Austin, Texas. Liberal city, big city with a lot of tech like ours, 6.3%, so a full 2% less.
So this sales tax increase for Denver is a 0.25% sales tax increase on top of our existing rate. And that money will be used to combat the city's issues with homelessness. So our city council has already voted yes for this measure, but now it's up to us, the voters. Do we actually in Denver want to increase our sales tax rate? This is a really special video because this is the first time that Sasha is pro-taxes and I'm anti-taxes. So Sasha, why don't you kick us off today? Why should the people of Denver pay more in their sales taxes to combat the issues around homelessness that we're facing?
Regardless of whether we like it or not, Denver faces much of the burden for homelessness in our entire region. So we just need to bite the bullet and build additional services and additional facilities for the benefit of all of us as residents.
So why does Denver bear the burden of homelessness for the region?
I don't know. Location. It's probably a better place to be homeless than a place like Greeley or Centennial. There's more public transit. It's easier to get to. There's more shelters and services here already.
So there's more shelters and services in Denver than in some other places in the state.
That's right.
So we already have some services in Denver for people experiencing homelessness. But Sasha, if we increase them, isn't that going to make it more attractive for people who are experiencing homelessness in other parts of the state? And instead of making Colorado Springs deal with it and have them implement their own services and tax their own people, by increasing services in Denver, aren't we just encouraging people to come to Denver instead and pushing the burden onto the Denver taxpayers?
Yeah, I think that's real, and it's a real qualm that Denver has with its neighbors. Now the question is there anything we can do to reverse that?
Reverse what?
Can we reverse Denver as being a hub for homelessness for the entire region?
Right. So there's some interesting data about where homeless people, when they're registered for services, what their last address was. Is it inside the city where they are getting services, or did they start experiencing homelessness somewhere else? And we looked at some data from other cities. I looked at data from Los Angeles and San Francisco, and most of the people experiencing homelessness there are from the state. But a large portion of them are not from the city, meaning that they first experience homelessness outside of the city, and then they come to the city when they are homeless because they can get services there. I think there's a big risk that if we as Denver keep trying to unilaterally address this issue, we're just going to make ourselves a bigger and bigger center for people who need services, and it's not actually going to solve anything. All it's going to do is increase our problem. But you don't agree with that?
Russell, you just converted me live. It just happened, everybody. That was such a good argument. Sales tax sucks. Down with taxes. How was I stupid enough to think that we should tax people for something?
We both agree that we have a real need to address Colorado's issues with homelessness, right?
Yeah.
And we have a real problem here. The price of housing is skyrocketing.
Yeah.
The price of building new housing is going up and up. It's harder and harder to get inventory on the market, and people, they just can't afford their homes. And that is real. There are a lot of families being displaced, and we should be serious about trying to address homelessness. But the city acting outside of the state acting is just not the way to do it.
Well, I think we've got our verdict here.
Well, I want to hate on sales taxes before we finish.
Okay, tell us why sales taxes are regressive. Go ahead, Russell.
Yeah, sales taxes are regressive. If you make a lot of money, you can save some of that money, you can invest some of that money, and you don't spend it. That means you don't pay sales tax on a large portion of your income. However, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you have to spend all your money just to stay alive. And that means the government is taxing all of your income. So, is taxing people who are living paycheck to paycheck at an effective rate that's higher than wealthy people, is that the right way to combat homelessness? I don't think that's a good tax policy, and I think that we'd be much better addressing this at a state level through an increase to income tax, or maybe a graduated income tax borne by high earners who can actually afford to do it.
I'm not going to comment on any of that. Suffice it to say, this tax sucks. We should get rid of it.
But Sasha, what would good policy around homelessness look like at a state level?
I think part of the problem is that the state doesn't have permitting and construction authorities. It has to work with the municipalities. Therefore, where do you put the homeless people? Where do you put the services? Because nobody wants them. Centennial's not going to say, yeah, we'll do it. We're going to pitch in. So I don't know what that tax policy looks like, but I suspect that the state has to get heavy-handed, and I also suspect that there's a lot of money that goes into jails and hospitals that's probably providing services for the homeless population that can actually just be rediverted to something much more productive.
Meaning we're already paying a lot for remediation, but in fact there could be measures that we could take at the state level that might really address the problem itself. And I think one of those things could be making housing more affordable in the state. Do you think so?
Housing is a huge thing, right? If the fundamental problem, the basic principle here is the person doesn't have a home, we should make homes more affordable. And I do think that this is highly tied to recidivism. I think this is highly tied to healthcare. And truth is, $40 million that this sales tax increase would create is kind of a drop in the bucket. And if the state really wanted to do something about it, it would just be heavy-handed and politically difficult.
Okay, so I'm a no on this measure. I say do not vote to increase the sales tax. Sasha, what do you think?
I was a yes, but now I'm a no!
Oh, saw the light. Look, you might agree with us, you might disagree with us. Maybe I converted you. Maybe my arguments were so bad, you switched sides. Write it in the comments. We want to hear from you. See you guys next time.